Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and this time around it's Mega Man, brought to us by Capcom. Now right off the bat, I wanted to look at the different box arts that go with this game. And first off, of course, it's the American box art, which just doesn't make any sense and is considered one of the worst box arts of all time. And I'm just going to kind of skip that one and go right to the Japanese box art, which you can see Rockman written at the bottom, Mega Man known as Rockman in Japan. And all the characters are there represented in more anime forms, more traditional Japanese animation forms. And I think it looks pretty cool. But the final box art, the box art that I actually like the most, is the European box art, which has that realistic thing the United States box art was going for, but pulls it off much better in my opinion, with all the characters looking as if they were more realistic. I even like the Dr. Wily up in the upper left corner, and of course the Wily Castle in the upper right. Now that that's taken care of, let's get going with the actual game and finally kicking off the gameplay of the March of Mega Man. With this being, of course, the very first Mega Man game, there's things in it that will get changed or improved on as the series would progress, including the fact that there's only 6 Robot Masters in this game, as well as a point system that we never saw again. Now, when they remade the game on the PSP recently, they added 2 new Robot Masters that kind of complete it to the normal 8, or at least the way we're used to it in terms of the other games in the series, 2 and up. But they added Oil Man and Time Man to the mix. Now, for this game, and for all my Mega Man runs, I'm going to be beating everyone with just the Mega Blaster, just the hand cannon. As well as I threw all the Robot Masters into a hat, and just threw them at random for which order I would be completing them in. I guess I kind of got lucky with this one in particular that I drew Bomb Man first, because he's the easiest, at least in my opinion, and I think most people's he's pretty much the easiest one. He's the easiest one to dodge his weapon and get around his level, and overall he's not too challenging, so at least I have something easy to warm up with. My least favorite in this game, the one I hate the most, is Fireman, because I've always had problems dodging his weapons. I can never seemingly get him in a pattern half the time, or get him stuck in a corner. Some of the other hard ones, including Electman, mainly because his weapon is so damaging, I've been able to find some tricks against him, including getting him kind of like stuck in a pattern, especially in his own level in the boss battle against him. Because unlike some of the other Mega Man games, the boss level designs, the actual den of the boss battles, is actually, some stuff around it that you can jump on and platforms and such. So they actually was a lot different. As they progressed, it became all like standard, just like the flat area for each Robot Master. But this one being the first, it was kind of different. They also did some of the different stuff, especially in Mega Man 2, but they slowly started to phase it out after that. This is of course considered the hardest of all the Mega Man games on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Just mainly because of the fact that there's some weird things. You don't get that extra bit of time after you get hit and land on spikes. In the other games, when you got hit and landed on spikes, you would have a few seconds that you were kind of flashing still, so of course you could get out of it. In this game, you fall on those spikes even when getting hit, you're instantly dead and you're instantly gone. Another reason why this game is considered one of the absolute hardest Mega Man games is the fact it has one of the hardest boss battles in Mega Man history, or in game history, in the Yellow Devil. Many consider it one of the hardest battles ever. And of course he takes place in the first level of Wily's Castle, so we'll have him coming up. And yeah, I'm not really looking forward to it because his battle takes a good amount of time, but I have discovered some tricks, at least over the years, that makes him a little bit easier. Now this is the end of the level, and we have one of the Sniper Joe guys who, he became a common enemy throughout the whole Mega Man series. But in this one in particular, since when he moves his shield, you can get some blasting on him. But in this one, he only fires 1-2 shots when he moves the shield. In the other ones, he fires like 3 shots, but you have a long period of time to just whale in some extra shots to hit him. Now, another thing this game has different than any of the other Mega Man games is the fact that it has a area, or like a series of hallways and a series of enemies before you actually get to the boss level after you enter the boss door. Now here's the first Robot Master I'm fighting, and this is Bomb Man, and he's absolutely really easy. He jumps around a little bit, but not too much. He mainly stays put on the ground so you can nail in some shots. Of course, his deadly thing is, of course, his bombs, which have a pretty large hit radius. But if you can get on one side of the screen and Bomb Man's on the other, you can either move closer, slowly closer to dodge the bombs as they arc over you, or you can stay close to Bomb Man, and as he throws the bombs, move away from him, and of course the bombs will slowly hit as you run away, and you'll be able to dodge most of them. But since they don't do a whole lot of damage, if you have a good amount of health going into the battle, you should have absolutely no trouble whatsoever defeating Bomb Man. Okay, let's see who we got next. Okay, it's gonna be Cutman. And just like the other one, of course, you get to see a clear point score. But, like I said, since I'm not really doing this in any particular order, I'm not going to be using any kind of ability, any of the Robot Master's abilities against the other robots. The big, of course, drawing thing about Mega Man and what makes Mega Man so cool is the fact that after he defeats a Robot Master, he, of course, gains their ability. Which, you can call at any time by hitting, the pause menu. You can bring it up and change between any of the enemies you've already defeated's weapon. And every Robot Master, of course, has an enemy, or, one of the other Robot Masters they're weak against. Obviously, in some cases, like, water is going to defeat a fire guy, and such and such. But there's ones that, of course, made no sense, because as the series progressed, it became, they weren't all, like, elemental or anything like that. In this one, most of them, since they are mostly elemental, at least 4 of them, Gutsman is mainly ground, so he kind of is like the 5th elemental, and the only one who kind of throws things off is Bomb Man. Just because he throws bombs and he explodes and he has really nothing to do with a particular element. Then again, neither does Cutman, so I guess that argument absolutely makes no sense. So there is 4 of them that have elements and 2 that don't. So finding out who exactly is vulnerable to which Robot Master is pretty essential to when you're first trying to beat these Mega Man games, the very first time you were trying to beat them. Of course, you want to know who was going to be weak against what, so you can easily defeat them and just move on quickly. Some of the other Mega Man games, though, the Robot Masters became actually pretty vulnerable to the Mega Blaster, the hand cannon, especially in Mega Man 2. Guys like Airman and Woodman, once they opened up and you actually could get shots on them, they were really, really easy to get with, and they were actually dead pretty quickly. Now, of course, this is Cutman's stage, which has like the weird minty color to all the tiles, because I always thought it was a little bit weird. I'm like, what exactly did that have to do with cuts? But either way, he has, of course, these eye-moving things in his level, and they become a complete staple of the Mega Man series. They've been in every Mega Man game since this one. And they're really not challenging or anything. They're mainly there because they put them in mass quantities in the room, and it's kind of maneuvering around the room and killing them without, them running into you. It just became like a common thing. Of course, I'm going to watch out for the spikes here because, instant death if I land on them, regardless of what I do. As you can see, these, the rocks that I have kind of like built up on the, the left side there, if I have Gutsman's ability, I can lift those rocks and throw them at enemies. There's actually certain points where you're going to need Gutsman's ability in order to get certain things. For example, one of the extra weapons, the actual, like, extra, Mega Man ability. In the other Mega Man games, of course, Dr. Light would give you the extra abilities, such as, like, Rush Jet and stuff like that. But in this one, you actually have to find the actual final ability that you actually need in order to get past Wily's stage. Now here's Cutsman, and of course he throws his, scissor thing on top of his head at you, and then slowly moves around the stage. Of course it comes back to him like a boomerang, but it's really, really easy to dodge, and of course his jump, if he jumps over you, you can run under him. But after only a few hits, he's done for. He's actually pretty easy. I have him like pretty much the second easiest other than Bomb Man himself. Of course I get my clear points, which racks up nicely. Okay, let's see who we got next. It's gonna be... Oh, okay, it's gonna be Gutsman. As Gutsman's, of course, clear points racks up as we get 80,000 for defeating Gutsman. Gutsman's stage is absolutely one of the harder stages, in my opinion, in Mega Man 1. Because there's a part with some conveyor things that you have to jump on, and it's absolutely really, really annoying, in my opinion, to get past them. But through practicing the timing, this is the conveyors I'm talking about. When they get to the end, or when they get to one of those middle things, like they get to one of those middle blank spots, they do that. So you have to immediately be jumping. As you can see, the jumping in this has to be precise. It's not the hardest thing ever in Mega Man. There's harder jumping in, but still, it's one of the harder things. At least when I was a kid, I would die tons of times there. I would get Gutsman out of the way first, just because I hated doing this level. It's one of my least favorite Mega Man levels in general. It's just because of that. And we got the hammer throwing guy, who, of course, we would see more of these pick hammer throwing mech type guys as the games progress. Of course, one of the main enemies of Mega Man, of course, is the Met, the tool. which wears, you know, pretty much they were miners that wear minor helmets and such, and they shoot little blasts at you. These guys are very similar to that. They're kind of like big Matools, actually, because they're actually like miners in general instead of just being like little flashlight guys and such. Of course, as we maneuver our way through this, we're going to continue over to the right. Here's another one of these jumping things that I can't stand. Pretty much have to maneuver my way around them so they don't land on top of me or else they do a ton of damage. But here we go in Gutsman's giant hallway, which is, speaking of Matools, we have more of them here with them wrapped up here. We have to get through a bunch of them, but of course they're not really challenging at all. But hey, that's just how the Matools are. And of course, the Matools has actually become one of the more popular Mega Man enemies, and pretty much has appeared in every single type of Mega Man game that has since come out. All the spin-offs and all such. Okay, here's Gutsman, and of course his biggest thing in the world is the fact that he shakes the ground every single time he jumps. He jumps around a lot, but when he jumps in the same spot that he was just on, he of course grabs a rock from the ceiling and launches it at you. Sometimes if you're far enough away, or you know, far enough on the left side of the screen or far enough on the right side of the screen away from him, when he throws it, you'll have enough time to recover from the earthquake that he causes to be able to extra, you know, jump over it. But for the most part, though, he's absolutely not that hard because, of course, you just have to time the jumps to make sure that you're not shaking up very long or at all. And as he jumps around like an idiot, you can just keep blasting him and blasting him and blasting him and slowly drain his health until, of course, he's done. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Who's gonna be next? Well, I say it's time for Fireman, because I hate Fireman. Let's get him out of the way. Here we go, Fireman. He's gonna give us, 70,000 points, less than Gutsman, which is kind of weird, and I consider Fireman pretty much the absolute hardest of the Mega Man robot masters in this game. And that's because his attacks are sporadic, and I highly suggest having full health when entering a battle against Fireman, because I always seem to need it. There is a way to get him in a set pattern that you can actually do a ton of damage to him, but I've always been bad at getting him in that set pattern. Of course, you can use, you know, what he's weak against, you know, against him. But since I'm using just the, you know, just the Mega Blaster, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. Okay, working my way up. Of course, I'm going to be dodging a ton of fire-based stuff. With it being, of course, Fireman stage, you would think it would be filled with fire things. Mainly, though, just these type of, you know, things like the platforms that have fire coming out. You just gotta time your jumps and wait for them to go back in, and then maneuver your way. This game actually has like the least amount of extra health laying around. As the Mega Man games progressed, they became easier, or at least in my opinion easier, because there seemed to be more random health boosts laying around waiting for you to grab them. In this area, be careful of course of the flying things that are coming at you from above. Of course, they'll knock you off the platforms, and in famous Mega Man fashion, of course, as you already know, when you get hit, you kind of backtrack for a second. You have no control over Mega Man for that few seconds. And the most famous thing of all is that when you're on a very small platform and get hit, even though you can't control it, Mega Man will fall backwards and end up falling off the platform to his death. In this part, watch out for these stupid shark things that explode every time you shoot them. Of course, if they run into you, they do damage, or if you actually shoot them and they explode, you actually can get hit by their explosion. One of the few enemies that, even in their death, they can still do damage to you, which is of course a little bit annoying, but still. Here's a common enemy in Mega Man I've been dealing with here. Of course, is these guys that when you land on a platform, then they start speeding up and coming towards you. They're pretty easy to dodge in some places and almost impossible to dodge in others. Now here's the hallway leading the Fireman. You know, all the Mega Man Robot Master stages, none of them are particularly extremely long or anything, especially in this game. They seem kind of short, especially considering it's one, you know, with only 6 Robot Masters, it's already the shortest of the Mega Man games, but it was the first one, so, you know, if this one became a hit, then, you know, once it did, they were like, well, let's extend it and make it longer and make it even better, you know, and that's what they did. Now here is Fireman, and good thing I have almost all my health. He, of course, fires these giant waves of fire. Every time you seemingly hit him, he gets ticked off and launches more fire things at you. Regularly, he'll only fire one at a time. If you seemingly hit him with your... every time you hit him with a blast, he shoots one that leaves one of those little fire things left. My strategy against him is just keep blasting him, jump over what you can. If you get lucky enough not to get hit, then hey, good for you. And just follow him around and keep blasting him. Hopefully he'll die before you do. He's the only Robot Master where I really don't have a trick or anything special to use against him. It's really impossible almost to dodge his ability, and just absolutely positively annoying, especially considering that wave thing you blast at you that leaves a little fire residue is almost impossible to dodge half the time. Okay, since we're done with Fireman, we're on Iceman now, so let's talk about nicer things, including Iceman. Now, not, of course, every time I say Iceman, I think of course, the X-Men Iceman, but of course that's not what we're talking about here. Now, in this level in particular, it introduces one of the things that became a staple of Mega Man games, the disappearing and reappearing series of blocks that you have to maneuver and jump around. This thing would become, this is one of the most annoying things in all the Mega Man series, and probably my least favorite things in terms of at least the stage designs in these games, having them in it. I can't stand them. I'm sure there's people out there that say that's the coolest thing, and that's one of your favorite things about Mega Man games, but I don't really like it. Here we go, and here we're off. First time we've had to deal with these things. Of course, they disappear and reappear, and you gotta maneuver your way around them. The first one that you see in each game, of course, is pretty easy. And this game, actually, the ones you see aren't really that hard. This one is, of course, harder than the other one, but it's overall not that hard. The problem is with this, I think come on, jump. Okay, I just screwed that one up. Oh well, let's try to go around this again. Come on, jump. There we go, I got it. That's how you're supposed to get around this one, I forgot for a second. There we go. It didn't look that hard, but that's because I practiced that enough to know exactly which way to go. In any game, in any of the Mega Man games where I can skip that area, I will, including the end of Heatman stage in Mega Man 2. I will use the Rush Jet to just blast my way through that entire level through that entire area, because I don't feel like dealing with all those disappearing and reappearing blocks. Not only does it take so long, one little slip up and you hit the lava and you're done. So it's just like, rather not take my chance unless I absolutely positively have to deal with it. Okay, here's one of those hopping guys that we've had to deal with before. As one kind of just reappeared there on the right side of the screen, and as I moved it disappeared. That was kind of weird. Here's those flying penguin guys that are similar to those bomb things, but they don't kill us, or at least don't leave an extra explosion when they die. Now here's Iceman. I find him pretty much the easiest, of the supposed harder Robot Masters, if that makes any sense. I actually find him pretty much the easiest one. Because he doesn't move that much, he only moves in 3 different spots, and his weapon is extremely easy to dodge. Just stand on the ground, stand on this left wall here, and jump twice every time the things come towards you. When the one goes over your head, jump over in between them. Of course, it takes a little bit of practice to get used to the timing, but if you play Mega Man enough, the timing becomes absolutely second nature, and it's actually one of the easiest things. You're just like, wow, why can't every Robot Master be this easy? Or you're thinking, why isn't this more challenging? Of course, since the pattern's the absolute same every freaking time, that's why Iceman in particular is absolutely one of the easiest Robot Masters to deal with in this game. But hey, with that, that's gonna, wrap up 5 of the Robot Masters. We only got 1 more to go, and that's Select Man, who has one of the most damaging of all the Robot Master's weapons. When his weapon hits you, it destroys your health bar. This is one of those ones where you absolutely have to dodge his move at all costs, or you will die completely over and over and over again. Now, I hate this stupid freaking part with these damn little things on the ground that we saw them earlier, where you land on the platform and then they speed towards you. Electman's stage in general is full of those things, as well as these, of course, electrical beams that you have to dodge as well. And, these things that's what I was just talking about. I hate them as well. This also contains the secret last robot ability that we must find, and is actually hidden. You need Gutsman's ability in order to get it, so that you have to do Gutsman before you do this one. The good thing is you can actually redo the levels. If you didn't have Gutman's ability when you did this level, you can come back to it and do it later, but in my opinion, of course, it's best to already have Gutsman's ability, just so you have to make one less trip. It's one of those things I said, in all the other Mega Man games, they made it easy because you would just unlock those extra abilities by defeating certain robot masters. Of course, there's 3 of them in Mega Man 2, and then they became more standard with just kind of like, you know, only 2 of them from then on in Mega Man 3 through 6. And then in later Mega Man incarnations, when they started making, you know, like the X series and all, they started, you know, adding a ton of new abilities and stuff like that would be added. But in these games, they only had a few. This one only has 1. Mega Man had 2, has 3, and 3 through 6 only have 2 apiece. So, but this one you actually have to find it, and of course having to use another Robot Master's ability is actually pretty cool and a little bit challenging. Now here's where it is. You can see on the right side of the screen there. Of course I need Gutsman's ability, which he can lift these little blocks here. And boom, there it is. No really big celebration, no nothing. As you can see, it's now the M at the bottom of my weapon selection screen, which, you know, signifies that I have grabbed it, and of course I'm going to be needing it in order to get past a certain room in Wily's castle. It's pretty much the only time you need it. I'm sure there's some other areas in which it could be useful, maybe. I really can't think of any. Maybe some of the other previous stages there was something useful you could have used it for, but the one main purpose of the reason why you must have it is for a certain room in Wily's castle. And there's been several times when playing the game I was just kind of speeding it through, and then I was like, crap, I forgot it. So I had to redo a Lucky Man to start the speed run all over and over and over again. Just, it's like, god damn it, I didn't feel like having to redo that. But, oh well. Actually, in one of my practice runs of doing this one, I forgot it. So that's why I'm making such a big deal out of it. Don't forget it if you already have Gutsman's ability. Just one less thing you have to deal with. Okay. Now that we've entered the Luckman's boss room area, his hallway or whatever, his whole thing is a big ladder that you have to climb up with a bunch of the little electrical things. It's really easy to dodge. Just time your way through. Don't rush it. You know, they pretty much have both sets of 3 have the exact same pattern. The middle one goes off first, and then the top and bottom ones at the same time, pretty much. Okay, once you get through them, you're gonna move your way up to the top. The floor is gonna close off, so of course you couldn't fall back down, which is cool. At least they do that. And Luckman, he's really, really fast, and his blast does a ton of damage. Here's my thing for him. You just get him stuck in this pattern. See how easy this is? Now, fortunately, you can't get him stuck here all the time, because sometimes he will kind of do his own thing. But for the most part, I found jumping up here and doing this will absolutely, positively get him stuck in a loop that never seems to end, and you can just whoop up on him really, really bad. It makes him extremely, extremely easy. Of course, you could also grab the 2 blocks right there, using Gutman ability, and take him out, but hey, if he's stuck in a pattern, stuck in a loop, and not doing any damage to me, I don't see a real need to go out of my way to do anything special to take him out, so. Hey, Luckman has completed. We get our 80,000 clear points. And now we get to move on to, like, pretty much the second half of the game. I mean, it's, you know, Dr. Wily's whole set of castle stages, his own kind of thing, is pretty much like the second half of the game. It's pretty much beating the Robot Masters is the halfway point, and then you pretty much have another whole half to deal with in the Wily stages. Of course, Dr. Wily and his famous UFO, as you can hear the sounds as he will take off, and now we get ready and set, and here we go with the Wily stages. Of course, this first one is, of course, the most annoying of them all, because this one has the Yellow Devil as the end boss of it. The next one after this one has a Mega Man clone, which is actually pretty annoying as well. The third one actually has a really, really easy enemy. People have kind of called him the prototype of Bubble Man, which you'll see why, because he pretty much says he rides in a bubble. I don't know, I saw that written in a couple of the FAQs I was just looking at randomly through this game, you know, before I started messing with the game. But he's extremely easy to deal with. And then, of course, you have some of the older Robot Masters that you have to refight, you know, as well throughout the course of it. In all the other Mega Man games, it became kind of like a boss rush thing at the end of it, like the final Wily stage. This one in particular, you fight a couple throughout them, and they're split up between like 2 different levels. The final stage in particular, you actually have to fight 3 of them, and then have to fight Wily as well, even with the same health bar, so it's actually really, really hard. But since 2 of the Robot Masters are actually really easy to deal with, only one of them's a pain in the butt, it's pretty simple to get past it. Of course, the one that's a pain in the butt to get past is Fireman, because I've always had problems. But if you're good against Fireman, obviously you're probably good against, you know, if you can get Fireman stuck in that pattern. Of course, it's really, really easy. I actually looked at some videos. It was like, it's amazing how everyone but me seemingly can get Fireman stuck in that loop half the time. But oh well. I guess I'm just not that lucky half the time. Of course, this part right here is a little bit annoying because it takes a little bit of time for the platforms to move. But if you take your time, you pretty much won't get hit. I'm gonna pick Gutsman's ability because there's the little item boost thing, is to recharge my weapon back up and work my way up. I don't like having any of the other abilities selected unless I have to. Okay, here's where we have to use, there's platforms for the M weapon, the special weapon we picked up. Pretty easy to use. Of course, this stuff will be later on pretty much used again in future Mega Man games with, you know, different lifts and stuff like that, you know, in Mega Man 2 through 6. But that was pretty much the beginnings of it. They had only the one in this one. Okay. Yellow Devil. Right off the bat, after the screen closes up, move to the middle of the screen. Because here comes a whole bunch of flying parts. He's made up of a whole ton of parts. When all his parts build his entire body back up, a little eye appears and you must blast it. And then immediately it closes and starts moving back and forth. All of them are easy to dodge, except for that one right there, that one I did the longer jump on, and it's an easy way to tell when it's coming. What happens is, when you watch it, when they're all gone, when that one appeared right below his crotch, pretty much, when that started to appear, I know I have to make my longer jump over him. You'll see it again. That one will appear below the crotch, and I make my longer jump. It takes some timing, takes some getting used to, but overall, I think by realizing that it's the same exact pattern every single time of the items moving, and just knowing when that one's about to come at you, it's pretty easy to get along and jumping. Now, it's still not particularly easy, it's just easier, because dodging all this stuff flying at you at a rapid speed is not easy no matter what. And of course the fact that he's hard to hit because you only get one shot on him every little bit. Of course you can use like the Electman's ability, which does a pretty good good chunk of damage. And you can also use the pause glitch, which I really haven't mentioned throughout this run because it's the only game that has it. You can actually pause the game, and when you're blasting them and stuff, you can actually keep that same blast you hit them with, hitting them over and over and over again by exploiting the pause button. It's become pretty famous amongst, of course, the Mega Man games. But since I don't really find it necessary to use, except pretty much if you're having a lot of trouble against this guy in particular. It's one of those bosses I don't think many people would blame anyone for using it, the pause glitch, against him. And even though I know the exact pattern, I still mess up from time to time. It's, I actually find the harder part of it is dodging that blast he shoots out when his eye briefly opens for that very split second when you have to hit him with it. I find dodging that blast sometimes a lot harder than actually dodging him, or at least his body that keeps moving from left to right. Of course, this guy would kind of reappear in later Mega Man games, but he was nothing of the same. He was kind of just completely different from this. I guess this is the only game that has this particular form of this guy, really, you have to mess with, or at least this difficulty that you have to mess with, but still, damn, he's a pain in the butt. Just a really, really long, drawn-out battle, but like I said, memorize that one that lights up right between the crotch, and you at least know when you have to make the longer of all the jumps, and for the most part, just staying in the middle and jumping over them, you can get past most of it. Of course, with him taken out, you get another clear bonus and rack up some points, and then you pretty much get set right back in, and you head up to the next level. Okay, here we go, level 2 of Wily's stage, where we end up having to fight a clone of ourselves in the end of it, which is one of the other harder bosses, but there's actually a pretty easy way to get through them. Pretty much how as you saw how I dealt with Electman by getting them stuck kind of in a loop. Pretty much the same thing. In this one, you get to fight 3 of the bosses again. Of course, the first one we have to fight here is Cutman, who's absolutely really, really easy. Same as, easy as before. He throws his little boomerang blade at us, jump over that, and he'll jump around the screen like an idiot. And you just take the shots when you absolutely can, but it's pretty easy to deal with. I usually defeat him without really even taking any damage. I actually find this part harder than the actual boss battles that you have to deal with in this level. just because if you get hit, you'll end up falling down a hole in some of the harder to do jumps. Okay, fell through, and here's Electman. Just like before, be very, very, very careful of his blast. Be careful, make sure you can jump over it. You see how much damage it just did to me when it hit me, so you know it means business. There's actually an easy way to get him stuck in a loop. I'm going to try to do. I think I got him here. Here we go, I got him stuck in the loop. He'll just keep doing this, hopefully, from now on. I just have to time my jumps exactly correct, which my key to do so is when he, when he gets knocked back, he does that little bit forward when he stands right before he gets ready to blast. That's my cue that I'm to jump again and continue the pattern. Come on, one more. Oh, no, needs another one. There we go. Electman's taken out, one of the harder ones to deal with. And let's do another whole part of this. I hate these little exploding ball things that pop out. They're pretty annoying to deal with. Not one of my more favorite things to have to mess with, but still. Maneuver my way around them, dodge around, and work my way over to this ladder. Hey, look, there's weird eyeball things, which you actually can use an ability to get past them really, really easy, without having to actually sit there and bother killing them. Because, for example, there's no way you can get down there without getting hit. So, I'm going to take out Electman's ability because of that 3-pronged lightning shot. You can use that in order to get past it. You know what? I'm just going to use it. Yeah, there we go. Hey, look at that. I was able to blast through the area pretty easily now. I forget how many of these areas I have to deal with. You know what? I'll use it again. Haha. Goodbye. Got you all. There's a lot of these things. I forgot how many there were. Oh well. Moving down. Continuing to move down. Here's another area where I'm going to use Electman's ability. Ow, that one actually hit me, damn it. Piece of crap. Watch out for that other thing, which is actually really easy to dodge its abilities. And here we go. We have ourselves our cloned Mega Man battle. Of course, he is, going to be the same thing I am, but if I change my ability, he changes his. So we're going to change right back now to the Mega Blaster. And he, of course, he's faster than us, seemingly. He has a better jump, it seems like, as well, but for the most part, I can get him stuck in a loop. Watch. Just watch this. See how I got him stuck on the right side of the screen? He just keeps, even though he moves forward sometimes and he's getting ready to come towards me, he just ends up stopping halfway through and ends up, going right back to the wall on the other side. So, I just stand here and continue delivering shots to him. If you can get him stuck in this, it's really, really, really easy, and probably the easiest way to do it is that. So, hey, he's taken out. Didn't really take too much effort for me to be able to take him out, but he's done, and now we're actually halfway through the Wily stages. The next one is pretty much one of the easier of the Wily stages. Actually has the easiest boss, at least of the main Wily stages that we have to deal with, so at least that one's not too hard. We actually got the 2 hardest ones done already. Yellow Devil and the Clone are considered the 2 hardest ones, and not only this game, but in most of Mega Man, I think. Because we got more of these eyeball things that we've already had to deal with once before. Maneuver our way around them here. Not only is the boss of this place pretty easy, the enemies and the path you have to take to get to them is actually pretty easy as well. Not a whole lot of, actual jumping and stuff like this. This is actually the end part here, which of course has this big giant thing of water that we have to deal with, as well as these penguin things that fly at us, which is actually really easy to dodge. Just keep holding the right and jump over them as they come towards you. Only like the very final one that you're going to see at the end here is one that you actually have to kind of jump a little bit, but if you keep going and time it exactly correctly, you can still make it over every single one of them without having any problems. Yeah, see that last one? I jumped, I hit the wall, but still, hey, I took him out. Okay, here we go. As soon as this thing comes down, just blast a bunch of shots in it. It takes a good handful of shots, like 10 or so Mega Blast shots, and it dies. You have to deal with a whole bunch of these. As you can see, when I kill one, it takes away a good chunk of his health. Now, they all follow the same exact pattern depending upon what door they come out of. Every time one comes out of that one door, they're going to follow that same path. It comes out of that left side door, he goes over to the side, down, over. This one out of the top, he immediately comes down, to the left, up and around, once, you know, so they follow the exact same pattern no matter which one they come out. Of course, they get faster and faster as they continue, but you can see with only a few shots, they're taken out and they're eliminated. You can actually pick up those things in the middle with Gutsman's ability and hit one of them with it, and it's an instant kill on one of those things. But like I said before, since we're just using Mega Blaster, I just showed my strategy of using just that against it. But even though you can kill them instantly with Gutsman's ability, they're pretty easy anyway, so yeah, it's just best kind of just to deal with it, you know, whatever. But either way, okay, it is finally time for the, well, it's the final stage, the final part of Wily's Castle. Oh, damn, I'm still not going to get past those things without getting hit. Oh, well. I got hit anyway. Use Gutsman's ability here to get past this wall of crap here. There we go. And for whatever reason, Dr. Wily seemingly loves Gutsman. I mean, look, just like the final stage of the game, and yet there's like little statues or whatever in the walls and ceilings of the stage of Gutsman. So, I guess for whatever reason, he really, really likes Gutsman, even though I never really saw why he was awesome. Of course, he's become more popular now because of certain YouTube videos of Gutsman in particular have become hilarious, but other than that, I don't really see a need to love Gutsman that much. As we're just going to kind of stand here and wait for this thing to come over. Of course, this thing is the exact same thing that we dealt with in Gutsman's stage. It's actually really hard. This thing's actually pretty hard to maneuver around, but not extremely challenging by any stretch. And now we're in a series of battles against the other robot masters. Here we go. We got Bomb Man. Friendly Bomb Man. He's extremely easy to maneuver around, extremely easy to dodge. Of course, this is like the final boss rush. We have to deal with the other 4 robot masters that we didn't deal with earlier. Which is kind of good that I don't have to fight Elect Man again. Okay, here we go. Fireman. Oh god. I hate him so much. I'm going to try to get him. This is how you're supposed to beat him, by slowly maneuvering around his shots. But I still get hit by him sometimes because they're hard to maneuver around. But having an easier shot time around against him, taking only a couple of shots. If you mash the button and get a lot of hits in, he seems to fire more shots at you. So, Iceman. Here we go again with Iceman. I'm just going to use the exact same strategy I used against him previously. Just easy to dodge all his moves, just have to jump over there's bottom 2 to come at you. Of course, he only goes in 3 spots, and now he's going to retract all the way back to the wall again. And he'll just keep following this pattern. Here's at the wall, and now he'll move forward a little bit again, and then back up again, depending upon how long it takes me to take him out. Takes a good amount of shots, but extremely easy to deal with, and I don't take any damage. Which is good, because we still have Gutsman to deal with, as well as Wily himself. Of course, since Gutsman is Wily's seemingly favorite robot, he's of course the last one that we have to fight. And just like before, he throws giant things at us, and plays the same exact way. If he jumps in the same spot, he's usually about to launch a giant rock at you, so be of course careful about that. But as he's actually jumping and maneuvering around the stage, he's not going to throw anything at you, so that's at least a good thing. And there you go. Gutsman's taken out. You know, since you've already faced him before, and if you want to use his weakness against him, which is Bomb Man's ability, you know, you can take him out relatively, really easily, but hey. Okay, here we go with Dr. Wily, the final boss of the game. He actually has 2 little forms that we have to deal with. His first form is you're going to jump up and shoot just the gun hand. He, of course, fires a series of blasts at you, similar in style, you know, to some of the other arcing abilities, including those mine-pick throwing guys from Gutsman's stage earlier in the game. They're pretty easy to maneuver around, they're not too challenging. They do a little bit, you know, a decent amount of damage, but nothing too terrible. But since you've already had to go through a boss rush to get to this point, you're going to be in bad shape. So just take your time around these things, only fire when you have a perfect shot. I usually don't try to take any chances unnecessary chances unless I absolutely have to. As we slowly drain his health, once it's completely drained down, he'll of course switch over to his final form, we'll have to take that out. Okay, here we go. Final form, and his blasts are a pain in the butt. They do this circular motion, as you're seeing. The best thing in the world is if you can time it just about when if you jump right before he's about to blast it, that spiral shot will just go above your head and won't go anywhere near you. If it does fire at you, my strategy is to stand still, because it's a good chance, not all the time, but there is a good possibility it will just completely circle around you like the weapon does in Fester's Quest, the enemies. It'll just circle right around you and go off screen and you don't get hit by it. So, unfortunately, if you're not fully in the air when he fires it, just stand still and you have a good chance of dodging it. And here we go. The big explosion, Dr. Wily, groveling at Mega Man's feet because, of course, he knows he just got his butt whipped. Mega Man has successfully defeated all 6 of Dr. Wily's most diabolical robot masters, including Dr. Wily himself and his super ultimate machine. We get our big super rack up clear bonus, which gives us a good 1,000,000 points. And now that we have our final score, we're of course going to go to our credit screen. Mega Man has ended the evil domination of Dr. Wily and restored the world to peace. However, the never-ending battle continues until all destructive forces are defeated. And in Mega Man's case, it will never end. Fight Mega Man for everlasting peace. And that's what Mega Man will do for the rest of time. Because of course after this game, God, who knew that we would see so many great sequels to Mega Man, including many spin-off series, including sports titles, and spin-off series in general, where they would go up to numbers just as big as the original series went to. And of course, as the credits are gonna roll by, you can hear it actually, you hear the song going, you'll end up hearing that song, of course, again at the beginning of Mega Man 2, so it's kind of cool that they kind of join those things together. And of course, since the music's so cool anyway, it's not a big deal to hearing it. As Mega Man slowly runs across the screen, as you can see, he loses his armor and all, and becomes basically more like his normal self, which we didn't see too often. At the end of it, though, we also get to see, Mega Man's sister roll for the first time, as well as we get to see Dr. Light, so that's kind of cool as well. As of course, you can see him running in the landscape and seeing the big city and, all that kind of stuff. And hey, look! There's Roll, there's Dr. Light, presented by Capcom USA. And that's going to wrap up Mega Man 1. And of course,